a good feeling. So let's see for the month and let's see for the next. We'll see.
I don't know how, Jofra, being Spanish, you have the British sense of humor suddenly arriving out of nowhere and aimed straight at me. It seems to be something all, I guess, are getting very comfortable with. But let's talk about Inter Milan right now, because, David, we've been talking about how there's been so much pressure on Inter Milan, how Antonio Conte almost got an extension that most people thought he wouldn't. And it's not been the season that Inter Milan fans would have hoped for.
Absolutely not. I mean, the league position's not great. Obviously, when I talk about the league, I talk about Serie A. When we're looking at the Champions League, their position is not great. Lukaku seems to be the only player who, dare I say, I say trying. That sounds wrong and it sounds bad, but without his goals, then it'll be even worse. And the fact that he's not playing today, you do ask the question, where are they going to get their goals from? Defensively, they haven't looked good. I mean, you can't. Giovanni scoring these goals on the weekend. What first finish was great, but again, you look at this defensive setup, it is poor, and not something that you associate with Inter Milan from last season. And even last season, as you said, Antonio Conte was being questioned about his future.
Yep. David, I'm going to be a little cheeky and refer to our first conversation about Kolarov playing left centre back, because it's come back to haunt Inter Milan on more occasions than one. As you can see, they finally managed to draw in injury time, something they did against Mönchengladbach as well in the Champions League, which is why look where they are in this Group B. Now let me just not even ask our experts here, because this is not what we expected about this group being in terms of standings after 2 matches played. Real Madrid at the bottom, Inter Milan second to last, and then Shakhtar and Mönchengladbach up there in first and second position. Jofra, as someone who supported Barcelona a lot, does that sort of give you a bit of sadistic happiness looking at Real Madrid there?
Well, we just today in Inter Milan, we are all supporting them. Yesterday, Vidal, told us to have some trust in Inter. Of course, they are not reaching in the best moment, and I think the absence of Lukaku is very important. But Conce's spirit probably is very important in the team, and Madrid actually is not in their best. Actually, Real Madrid just 1 point, and you see in the table. So it's an interesting match, I guess.
I see, Jofra, that with the beard going away, a lot of the inhibitions have gone away as well. So there's a lot of pointed humor coming in, and I absolutely love that. But talking about Real Madrid, Jofra, there was a bit of controversy, and we spoke about it the last time around as well, where Benzema apparently said, don't pass the ball to Vinicius Jr. because he was having such a bad game. It seemed like he was playing against Real Madrid. First up, what's your reaction to that? And again, in a way, do you say, well, it's Real Madrid, we're happy about it?
Well, a lot of rumors, a lot of noise with it, Now you have to take a lot of care with cameras, even inside the tunnel, because they were talking in French with Mendy, and not expected. But actually, because Vinicius is a very good player in terms of move active in the game, but is not very good in terms of connecting with the teammates. That's why they are trying now to clean the image that they show here. But it's a very it's a very big point to Zidane to build again a team spirit, because it's not easy.
Now, Karim Benzema is a man who's backed his words with action, David, by not passing the ball to Vinicius. And are we reading too much? Is the world reading too much into this, or you do genuinely see something that could balloon into something bigger?
Well, I'd like to think that there isn't anything deeper than Benzema believing that he's identified something during that game, because, Joffrey, you know this, when you're playing a game, you can look at your teammates and now anything, and it's going to essentially break the game down. So if Benzema's identified that Vinicius isn't on top form, then he's not going to pass the ball to him. That makes sense. Unfortunately, we all know about this, and it's the better better kept secret than it is being out in a public display. But I'd like to think today that will change and he will pass. I'm not going to say I'm a Barcelona fan or a Real Madrid fan in this context, but you just want the best players to be playing out their best to make a wonderful spectacle of it, rather than any Harvard dislike towards each other.
We will see what develops about that. But in that match, Joffre, we were talking about how against Mönchengladbach, and we will come back to Mönchengladbach because they have given us good performances. But for Real Madrid, it was late drama which was needed to give them that draw. It seemed to, I would like to say, buoy them a little bit because the weekend performance was better than this, wasn't it?
Yeah, a lot, and it's very strange everything in Real Madrid because they frequently perform better in Europe than in La Liga in the last seasons. But yeah, they have started, and the point at the end of the match give the Real Madrid a chance, because if not today they are under the very big pressure, more than even they have today with Inter Milan. But you know, have these minutes. But Mönchengladbach showed that they're going to be, I don't know if fighting for the second, but probably not giving easy the position.
Yep, David, because I mean, we're talking about how good Casemiro was for them, got the goal and assist, but it could have been so much worse if they didn't have even that solitary point on board.
Yeah, I mean, funny enough, when you look at the table, it's a regular song for teams in the EPL to say that the Football League is upside down. Well, that league looks upside down. You would imagine Real Madrid to be at the top.
Rating 30 CET, tune into UEFA Champions League Matchday Live on UEFA.com and the official UEFA Champions League app. We'll be across all the action tonight with live commentary from our 2 featured games, as well as regular updates from elsewhere in Europe's elite club competition. We'll hear from some of the game's biggest names in exclusive interviews before kick-off, and we want to know your thoughts. Tweet us at Champions League using the hashtag MatchdayLive, or go to our Instagram page to get your opinions and questions put to our expert panel. So stay with us right here on UEFA Champions League Matchday Live.
Champions League Matchday Live.
Week 3 of the new season is here, and there's some heavyweight showdowns tonight.
Clips it for Luis Suarez! Stunning strike! 1-1, Luis Suarez with a brilliant goal!
We begin in Russia, where Atletico face Lokomotiv, before 2 of Europe's greats face off.
In here, Hazard tried to play it back, and it's hit, and it's in. And Toni Kroos has given Real Madrid the lead. Into Havertz, taking it quickly and advance here to Lautaro Martinez and score! It's Inter ahead!
13-time European champions Real Madrid take on 3-time winners Inter. We thought they'd be battling for top spot. It might be a fight to avoid elimination. All to come on Matchday Live. Yes, welcome to the programme from myself, Chris Parrott. So it is night 5 of the new season, and we're on air for the next 5 hours. So much to look forward to. Here is what is coming up in full. Full live commentary on Lokomotiv Moscow against Atletico, which kicks off in less than 25 minutes. Plus updates on the other early match between Shakhtar and Borussia Mönchengladbach. Those 2 can steal a march on Real Madrid and Inter, who play later in Group B. And as you just heard, that is our second commentary match. Both of those huge clubs are in peril right now. Madrid against Inter kicks off at 9 p.m. Central European time. It's one of 6 late games. We'll also have extended updates of Atalanta against Liverpool, and we'll tell you about all the goals as they go in at these following matches. Salzburg against Bayern, Manchester City versus Olympiacos, Porto against Marseille, and Midtjylland against Ajax from Denmark. Let's begin with our first commentary match though, Lokomotiv Moscow against Atletico. Stephen Wyeth is our commentator for this one.
Hello Chris, good evening everybody. For most clubs, the Champions League group stage is about assessing both hope and expectation. And for Lokomotiv and Atletico, it feels like a stick or twist kind of night. Any ambitions the Moscow side have of progressing to the round of 16 likely relies on a victory that would give them huge encouragement and their visitors a few jitters. Avoiding defeat aids the more realistic target of a 3rd place finish and an improvement on the last 2 seasons. Atletico, meanwhile, won't want to offer any hint of vulnerability in the race for the top 2. They responded to that match day 1 mauling in Munich with 3 straight wins in all competitions, but had to come from behind and needed a late winner to beat Salzburg last week. They'd prefer their anticipated progress to the knockout stages for the 9th time in 11 attempts to be as serene as possible.
They would. I can see Sal Niguez and Luis Suarez out on the pitch in Moscow. Full team news is in, Stephen.
Yeah, that is pretty much the headline team news for Atleti. Let's tell you about Lokomotiv first, though, who make just the one change from the side that started against Bayern here last week. A hamstring injury deprives them significantly of their captain, veteran Choluka. So Slobodan Rajkovic deputises, and goalkeeper Guilherme wears the armband. He is in goal. Zhivogliadov is at right back. Rajkovic alongside Murillo and Rybus at the back. Ignjetovic, Kliakov, Krikoviak and Anton Miranchuk are the 4 in midfield, with Smolov and Zé Luis up front. For Atleti is a pair of changes from last week. Saul Niguez has recovered from a muscle injury and makes Atleti appearance number 300 tonight. Jose Jimenez is preferred to Felipe in defence, and Luis Suarez, who got the benefit of a rest at the weekend, is back tonight, refreshed and raring to go. So it's Oblak in goal, Trippier, Savic, Jimenez and Renan Lodi the back four, Llorente, Saul, Herrera and Correa the midfield four, with Suarez and João Felix their front two.
Atleti 4-4-2 once again. Stephen, thanks for that. Also part of our commentary team this evening is the former Tottenham Hotspur captain, Jenna Schillaci. We were alongside each other a week ago as Lokomotiv ran the European champions Bayern very close in Moscow. Probably should have got at least a point, actually, Jenna. Do we think they can do the same to Atletico this evening?
I think they're going to be really frustrating opponents to come up against. I think if they start like they did last time on the front foot and really go for it, they've got nothing to lose, and they need to start getting some points on the board if they are to stand any chance of getting out of it. So yeah, I think they'll frustrate them, and why not? If they go at it like they did, they created lots of chances last week.
8,000 in again this evening, so they will have the backing of a vocal home support. We were just speaking about it before the show. Zé Luis had a wonderful chance at 1-1 against Bayern when he really should have passed for a tap-in, and he went for goal. And I asked you off-air what would have happened in a dressing room, given it's only a week on. We saw him warming up looking very confident, a big smile on his face. Would that have been spoken about? And if he gets through one-on-one again, would you expect him to pass this time?
Yeah, definitely, 100%. I think that would definitely have been spoken about straight away in the change room. And again, I think when they analyse the match and when he looks back at it, he must be absolutely kicking himself. I know if I was his strike partner then, I'd be screaming at him, because that was a guaranteed goal had he got his head up and passed the ball.
And that would have put them 2-1 up against Bayern at home a week ago. From Atletico's point of view, they've conceded 6 times already in the group stage. You were a defender in your long career at Tottenham. That's more goals conceded this season in the group stage already than the whole of a year ago. Were you ever in a position where suddenly you started conceding more goals? And if so, how do you go about trying to change that and get back to that normal, solid self?
Yeah, I've experienced, I think every defender in professional football, you go through a phase where you're not playing as well as you'd like to be, and sometimes things just aren't going right for you. I think, first of all, it's about getting the basics right again, sometimes just drawing everything back, taking a look at yourself and going starting from basics again. I think if you trust in the plan, you keep working hard, and you will turn it around. But yeah, it will obviously be in the back of their minds, and Lokomotiv will know that tonight.
At the other end, Luis Suarez and João Felix are just going through a fascinating drill. That is the strike partnership. Suarez is currently trying to take on João Felix, which probably isn't a good idea, because João Felix might then nutmeg him. But those two have struck up a really nice partnership since João Felix, since Luis Suarez arrived at the club. And when you look on paper at those two up front, this is perhaps a more exciting Atletico team than we've seen in the recent 5-10 years under Diego Simeone.
Yeah, definitely. They've got, as you mentioned, them two up top, and I think as we spoke about them leaking goals, they're also starting to score again. They're going on a good run now. So yeah, they're dangerous. They're a dangerous pair. And Luis Suarez, you won't want to give him any time in and around the box at all, because he will punish you.
You certainly don't. They're actually doing their own drill away from the rest of the Atletico teammates, as if they're their own little bubble out there. There is one other early match this evening, kicking off in 18 minutes time as well. It's a very big one between Shakhtar and Borussia Mönchengladbach, who currently top their section ahead of Real Madrid and Inter. Team news from Kiev: Luis Castro has selected 10 players who started against Inter last week and against Real Madrid on match day 1. The only change is Tyson replaces the injured Dentinho, which on paper at least makes them stronger. The Gladbach head coach Marco Rosa has made 3 changes to the side that won impressively against Leipzig in the Bundesliga at the weekend, and he's reverted back to the same starting lineup he named for the 2-2 draw in this competition with Real Madrid a week ago. So Kramer, Stindl and Thuram come into the side from the weekend. So we'll keep you up to date with that match between Shakhtar and Gladbach. Full commentary to come, though, of Lokomotiv against Atletico. And of course, we want you to get involved throughout the evening on Twitter at Champions League using the hashtag MatchDayLive. And we'd like you to tell us where you're listening. Send us your pictures any score predictions, and also get involved in our social media topic, which is this tonight. Given we've had a season full of surprises so far, Shakhtar's win at Real Madrid really standing out. We want to know your most memorable Champions League. I'm going to bring in Stephen Wyeth here. You're always good for a shock. Anyone that particularly springs to mind?
Well, good for a shock in terms of coming up with something useful, Chris.
Yep.
Is that what you're trying to suggest?
I wasn't, that's fine.
Well, I always like to choose something that I've seen with my own eyes, and I'll take you back to 2004, round of 16, Old Trafford, Manchester United against Porto, a late winner for Porto in terms of the aggregate score to level things up on the night at 1-1, to send Porto through to the quarterfinals 3-2 on aggregate. And Jose Mourinho, who at that point very few people could have picked out of a police lineup, went marauding down the touchline and sullied his suit by skidding in towards the corner flag. And there was all of a sudden a new name in terms of an emerging managerial talent in European football. If anything, that moment was more significant than the fact that he guided Porto through to the final, which they subsequently won. That was the making of Jose Mourinho, that moment.
Yeah, as if that is 16 years ago as well. I wasn't there, but I remember watching it on TV and thinking, who is this guy sprinting down the touchline? Must have been great to actually have been there to see it.
The most astonishing thing, you know what, Chris, after that was I think he really understood how significant that moment was in his career, Jose. Everybody, every single journalist who thrust a microphone under his nose after that game got an interview with the then Porto coach. And you've got that first sense of what a charismatic person he was and what a confident head coach he was. So not only was it a shock on the night, but it became one of the key moments, I think, in the history of the Champions League.
I'm pretty sure Gary Neville and Sir Alex Ferguson actually went into the Porto dressing room after that defeat and gave credit to Mourinho and his team. That was a real shock. Jenna Scalacci, anything that particularly springs to mind?
Yes, the Ajax Tottenham semi-final.
I knew you were going to bring up Spurs again. It's fair enough, though.
I remember this song because I was training that evening. I remember getting home, rushing home for it, and we were 3-0 down on aggregate. So I was thinking, oh God, here we go. And then all of a sudden, it was incredible. I mean, what a roller coaster! I nearly pulled my hamstring when Moura scored the last goal for his hat-trick.
I think Pochettino nearly.
That for me, that was incredible.
That was. In terms of a shock, quite extraordinary. And we want your suggestions, loads of you getting in touch using the hashtag MatchDayLive. Big Mike says, wouldn't say a shock result, but the runs from Atalanta last season and Leicester City in their debut Champions League seasons were definitely shocks in a good way, reaching the quarterfinals, of course. And thank you, King Henrik, says Barcelona 2 Bayern 8, which still... a couple of months on, you can barely believe actually happened. Keep those suggestions coming in, please, on Twitter using the hashtag MatchDayLive. But it's not long now until kickoff in our first commentary of the night here on Matchday Live.
It's another big night of UEFA Champions League action, which means that fantasy football is back. You've not got long to change your team. Tonight's deadline is at 6:55 Central European Time. Pick your side now at UEFA.com and you could win some great prizes, including a trip to the final and a PS.
Yep, you've got about 13 minutes to make your changes to your fantasy football teams for this week. I brought in Lassina Traore, having marched off the bottom of our league here on Matchday Live last week. Lassina Traore, the Ajax centre-forward there at Midtjylland this evening, are injury ravaged, but hopefully he'll get on the pitch and will get me some goals. Do head over to the Gaming Hub though to make your changes now and to pick your team and to get involved, as you just heard some mass. Okay, so 2 early matches. Plenty more on those coming up, given kickoff is fast approaching, but 6 more games coming later on. Real Madrid against Inter, full commentary from 9 p.m. CET. No Romelu Lukaku for Inter, but an enormous game. If one of those 2 giant clubs loses, they really would be in a very tricky position to make it through to the last 16. Atalanta host Liverpool. We'll have extended updates of that match and the goal updates on Salzburg against Bayern, Manchester City against Olympiacos, Porto, Marseille and Midtjylland against Ajax. So let's hear from Jurgen Klopp now. As I mentioned, Liverpool are in Bergamo to take on Atalanta, and he's been heaping praise on the Italian side.
Top players, top recruitment, Very, very well organized, play their system with 100% conviction, so they know exactly what everybody has to do. They use the skills of the individuals in an incredibly smart way. So you can exactly see how they use the strikers, how they use the strikers in different ways. You can see Gomez roll in midfield, which is completely free, floating, whatever, genius, running everywhere around, make it really difficult to catch him. These kind of situations where you have to try to deny them, if you want, that you just have to make sure that the players who are usually finishing off the situations, that they don't get the ball that often, that you can do that, because that's something you can do together. The block is one player, the save is one player, all the rest is for 11 players, and that's why we work on that pretty often, to be honest, and that's the match plan. That would not be different in any situation. So it's, how I said, we respect that, and they are a threat. And again, the Midtjylland game was really a top example for how they are. Even on a not sunny, shiny day, whatever, they score 4 goals. So that was quite impressive, and we are aware of it. And until tomorrow we have time to make sure that we can deal with it.
Could listen to Jurgen Klopp all day, talking there ahead of Atalanta against Liverpool. Extended updates on that one from 9 p.m. CET. As the Lokomotiv anthem rings around their stadium in Moscow. That's what you can hear in the background. That's our early commentary match against Atletico. Our late commentary match, as we mentioned, is Real Madrid against Inter. Now, this is the first time these sides have met, amazingly really, given their pedigree, since November 1998, when Inter beat Real Madrid 3-1. These were the goal scorers: Roberto Baggio, Ivan Zamorano and Clarence Seedorf. The teams included some of the best players of all time: the Brazilian Ronaldo, Roberto Carlos, Raul, Davor Suker and Baggio came off the bench. It was ridiculous, Stephen Wyeth. I think it might also be showing off my age. Those are some of my favourite players growing up. I just wonder if you've got any particular great Inter or Real Madrid players that you can remember, cherish, look back on YouTube.
Well, just hearing your voice rattling off those names shows you just how evocative those great Champions League nights can be, and how long they linger in the memory, and how much they feel like they happened much more recently than many of our favourite memories have. One such, I would go with Ronaldo Fenomeno, and the fact that he was applauded off at Old Trafford, having scored a hat-trick for Real Madrid back in, I think that was, to get applauded off when you're an away player by the home fans because of your contribution in the match is a demonstration of just what an outstanding night you had. So that one is definitely lingers in my memory. And do you know what, from Inter, it's more the essence of that team that went all the way to winning the Champions League final in 2010 and completing the treble. That team with Diego Militao scoring the goals in the final in the win over Bayern Munich. That's the Inter that I always think of. They're not the most glamorous of teams that's ever pulled on the Inter Milan shirt, but they just feel like the one that had that essence of being greater than the sum of their parts, and in many ways that is an even greater triumph, the success they had that season.
Yeah, and that was the last time they were in Madrid, playing at the Bernabeu when they beat Bayern in that final. The game is being played at the much more modest surroundings of the Estadio Alfredo Di Stefano this evening. Also in that Inter team in 1998, which moves us very nicely onto your match, Stephen Wyeth, tonight, was Diego Simeone. And he's about to step out in Moscow under the floodlights, 8,000 in. And this is going to be a difficult test for his side against Lokomotiv this evening, isn't it?
A test he would expect them to come through, and he would expect them to come through it with a relative degree of comfort. They have an excellent record against this opponent. These two sides met in the Champions League group stage last season, and Atletico Madrid won both games on that occasion 2-0. They've had recent meetings in the UEFA Europa League as well in the round of 16, and again Atleti won both matches with João Felix scoring in both contests. So do you know what? Yes, there are under certain circumstances you would see this as being perhaps an anxious kind of night, but they have proved Atletico, since the 4-0 defeat by Bayern back on match day 1, that they've been able to quickly rediscover the kind of things that they are renowned for. They have won their last 3 in all competitions. They are the only unbeaten team in the Spanish La Liga this season. They're on a 22-game domestic unbeaten run, the best in their history, and no team in Spain has conceded as few goals as they have this season. And with João Felix, you mentioned the warm-up that he was doing with Luis Suarez, the way João Felix is breaking ankles at the start of this season with those jinking runs through defences, I think this is a night when you would expect him to light things up.
Group A, as things stand, Bayern on 6 points, then come Atletico on 3, Lokomotiv and Salzburg both on 1 point. From Atleti's point of view, Jenna Scalacci, win here this evening, they would then probably back themselves to beat Lokomotiv at home. All of a sudden, they could be in a really strong position to reach the last 16 again.
Yeah, definitely, and I think they'll be keen to get it wrapped up earlier on in the group stages rather than later, and I think they'll go there tonight with nothing more in their mind than coming away with the 3 points.
Stephen, can I ask about João Felix in particular, because we spoke earlier with Jenna about the fact they have conceded 6 goals in 2 games. Do you think that Diego Simeone, after more than a year as João Felix, is now beginning to take the handbrake off of him and maybe, dare I say, off of his Atleti team? Are we seeing a slightly more attacking Atletico than we've been used to?
There might have been a slight adaptation from Diego Simeone to the ethos that he has become renowned for, but occasionally that's just a consequence of the circumstances. You know, if they haven't been as robust defensively as you and Jenna were discussing in the Champions League, so yeah, maybe they do need to be more of a threat going forward. And ultimately, when you've got a precocious talent like João Felix and head coaches these days try to be careful with these sorts of players, not to ask too much of them too soon. But he scored 4 goals in his last 2 outings. I mentioned he scored in both ties against Lokomotiv last season. I mean, he's probably tipped beyond the coming of age point in his career, and now he's got a wily fox like Luis Suarez alongside him up front, from whom he can learn 1 or 2 of the more crucial and perhaps underhand tricks of the game, and that's only going to enhance him as a player.
Agreed. The players are making their way out, so we can hear from the Lokomotiv camp now. Their head coach is Marko Nikolic, and he's been speaking to the media ahead of this match.
Champions League is the goal for every coach, for every player. It's like I said, by far the football, not just in Europe. Everybody want to be there, everybody want to participate in it, but like I said, I want my team not just to participate, we want to compete. Even the group is very hard, so it's going to be interesting anyway to be inside, to play against the best teams in the world of football, against the best coaches, with Diego Simeone, a passionate coach, with now Luis Suarez, with many good players and a lot of experience. They are always in the final stages of European Cups for the last few seasons. It's a task for us to find a way to compete in this level, and I believe in my team that we can find a way.
Marko Nikolic there, and as you can hear, the Champions League anthem rings around Moscow tonight. Concentration on all 22 players. They've stepped out into the Moscow evening. Atletico won here by 2-0 a year ago. As Bayern found last week, though, Lokomotiv are a bit of a different prospect in 2020. Lights are on, pitch looks absolutely perfect. Can the Russian side cause a major upset? We will keep you up to date with the other early match between Shakhtar and Borussia Mönchengladbach. Remember, later on, full match commentary of that huge game between Real Madrid and Inter. Keep your messages coming in on social media using the hashtag MatchDayLive. Get involved where you're listening in the world and tell us your greatest Champions League shocks. So many of you getting in touch, including James, who he actually gives us 5, including Lyon's win against Manchester City last season, not so many months ago. Keep those messages coming in, but for now, all eyes and ears on this very big game on match day 3 as match day 3 gets underway in the north of Moscow. It is a game between Lokomotiv and Atletico, and your commentary team are the former Tottenham Hotspur captain Jenna Scalacci and Stephen Wyeth.
Well, Chris, it should be a fascinating night, and it's nice to have a little bit of noise reverberating around the stadium, isn't it? Just a few more than 8,000 people inside Stadion Lokomotiv for the visit of Atletico Madrid, a team that has never lost in Russia in the Champions League. Diego Simeone's side have an excellent record on their travels, not just to the capital, but to Russia full stop, and they will anticipate maintaining that this evening, especially if João Felix, who we are getting a shot of right now, can maintain the excellent form that has seen him score twice in each of Atletico Madrid's last 2 games. Lokomotiv, though, against Bayern last week, demonstrated the progress that they have made under their Serbian coach, Marko Nikolic, over the course of the last 12 months. He's just bumping fists with those on the Atleti bench. The referee this evening, waiting to get things underway, is the experienced Frenchman, Benoit Bastien. It will be a test for Atleti, there is no doubt about that, but it is a test that we anticipate them coming through with a degree of comfort that has been demonstrated by them both at home and on the continent since they were soundly beaten 4-0 in Munich on match day 1 of this season's Champions League group stage. That was a chastening lesson and a reminder that you cannot live on reputation alone, and that even the very best on the European stage have to adapt and work towards what is the strengths that they possess at that particular moment. We've played 30 seconds, it's 0-0. Atleti in their changed all blue, kicking from left to right. Lokomotiv all in white this evening. They will be hoping they can cause a major upset, even if things haven't necessarily been going according to plan for them of late. They have lost their last 3 games in all competitions, all 2-1, including a defeat by the side that's currently second bottom of the Russian Premier League, Volgograd. The ball is in the right back area of Atletico Madrid. Kieran Trippier is in possession, like Jenna Scalacci, a former Tottenham player, and Jenna, he seems to be enjoying himself, getting the experience of playing abroad and certainly settling into what is now his second season playing for Atletico Madrid.
Yeah, definitely. He's been come on leaps and bounds since his move. He's back to firing form, and he's getting his regular start. So yeah, he looks to be enjoying his football very much so at the moment.
First opportunity for Lokomotiv in possession, and they've won themselves a free kick midway inside the Atleti half. Midway between the edge of the penalty area and the halfway line. It was Miranchuk who was upended, and it was just an unnecessarily aggressive challenge by Murillo, the Brazilian centre-half, which has brought his head coach Diego Simeone into the technical area, punching the air in disgust, and Jan Oblak in the Atleti goal has got some organising to do now as the players form a line just beyond the edge of the penalty area, and Miranchuk is standing over a free kick which he's going to look to whip across the face of that penalty area right-footed. João Felix is the solitary member of a one-man wall. It is hardly the most imposing of obstacles that Miranchuk will have faced in terms of delivering a free kick, but he will still need to deliver this with a degree of perfection. Goes deep with it, Miranchuk, and Zé Luis was the target. It's hoisted away by Luis Suarez, who was back helping out defensively. Shabonkliov back into the penalty area, headed away by Savic this time, and cleared from the edge of the penalty area only as far as Kulikov, but the whistle goes, and it'll be an Atleti free kick.
That was a silly foul to give away by Madrid there in the early stages of the match. They could have put themselves under unnecessary pressure there.
Yeah, Angel Correa was the player who was subsequently fouled to allow the Spaniards to relieve the pressure. Here's João Felix on halfway, left-hand side, 3 minutes played, 0-0 on Match Day Live. He plays it across the back line to Savic, who's laying it up the right-hand touchline towards Trippier. A quick switch of play from left to right, but it doesn't work out. Maranchuk had nipped the ball away from Atleti, and it's eventually out of play off Kuliakov for an Atleti throw. The hair, the Diego Simeone Barnet, is not quite as neat and tidy as we've become used to. That is the problem in these COVID times. It's much more difficult to get an appointment at the barber. I need to get myself down there tomorrow, actually. That reminds me, before things tighten in the UK. Is Jose Jimenez preferred to Felipe at the heart of the Atleti midfield defence tonight. Savic, his centre-back partner, carries the ball over halfway. Out to Trippier, who is once again hugging the right-hand touchline. Level now at the edge of the Lokomotiv penalty area. Trippier plays it inside, but it's a misplaced pass. And Lokomotiv, well, at least they thought they would, have the opportunity with Fedor Smolov to run the ball clear, but it is won back quickly by Hector Herrera in the colours of Atletico Madrid.
Just seeing Trippier breaking down the right wing there. Last week, Rivas had his hands full with Pavard. He was a constant threat, so I imagine he'd be working on that and hoping to minimal the chances for Trippier out there on the wing.
Trippier a long way forward again, and this time the pass is just beyond him. It was João Felix looking to release Trippier, but the ball beats him out of play and behind for a goal kick. But Jenna, as you've spotted, that is clearly looking to utilise.
Yeah, definitely. He's so dangerous in them positions. He's assisted many a goal from that wide position. So they'll want to click onto that and quickly.
How well thought of is he at Tottenham, Jenna? Kieran Trippier obviously played for England at the last Men's World Cup.
Yeah, I mean, he was very highly thought of. He put in some amazing performances. I think his last season, his form had dipped a bit, but I think that was through injury, and I think he admitted himself he was probably playing through injuries and maybe being a bit selfish in the fact that he just wanted to play every game, which in turn affected his form. But it's good to see him back playing and back in shape again.
That's the voice of the former Tottenham captain, Jenna Scalacci, with us on Matchday Live. Atletico Madrid have the ball on the edge of their own penalty area. In fact, Savic is going all the way back to his goalkeeper, the captain, Jan Oblak, and ever present in all competitions this season. He's clearing it up to halfway. We've played very nearly 6 minutes. Lokomotiv 0, Atleti 0. João Felix and getting support from Angel Correa. Trippier again, who's furthest forward on the right-hand side, returning the pass to Angel Correa, who's looking to force it across the face of goal, and it deflects off the retreating Kuliakov and behind for Atletico.
Good play from Letty there. You see Felix drop into the midfield to receive the ball, and then some good work by Trippier, and the cross just cut out there for a corner.
Working it well down that right-hand side. Atletico Madrid, who have lost one and won one in the early stages of this season's Champions League group stage. 8 times from their previous 10 visits to this stage of the Champions League, they have progressed to the round of 16. They will expect to maintain that impressive.
And the only way through there was the ball over the top that they didn't, Moscow couldn't pull off there.
We have the first goal of the evening here on UEFA Champions League Matchday Live, and Borussia Mönchengladbach lead in Kiev against Shakhtar. A lovely ball from the right-hand side from Stefan Leiner, and there was Alassane Player to sweep home on 8 minutes to put Gladbach 1-0 up, and as things stand, they will move to the top of Group B. Later on in that section, we have full-match commentary of Real Madrid against Inter. It is a group to watch in this season's competition, but a good start from both Lokomotiv and Atletico. Stephen Wyeth in our early game.
Remains 0-0. It's Atleti pushing forward. Angel Correa out to Trippier on the right. And then Trippier whips the ball into the penalty area, which is into an area that is devoid of Atleti teammates. And it is out of play for a throw-in on halfway. We just saw Hector Herrera, Jenna, take a real gamble, turning back into his own penalty area whilst we were getting an update on the other end, but having taken that gamble, he then used all of his experience to draw the foul from Smolov.
Yeah, definitely. It was clever from him there. He could have got in a world of bother there, but yeah, he used his experience there to get his body right in front and then took the foul.
Renan Lodi's cross in towards João Felix, who gets his header all wrong. Just 5 metres out, bang in front of goal, and João Felix can't even turn the header on target, let alone test Guilherme.
I think his body positioning was all wrong there. He was kind of facing the goal instead of side on. So yeah, he didn't help himself out there. But a good opportunity there, and I think Atleti are now getting warmed up.
Not exactly the sort of chance you expect to come the way of João Felix, who is relatively diminutive of stature compared to one or two of his teammates. Here's Saul out to Renan Lodi, who's getting an opportunity to get forward on the left-hand side. Hector Herrera cuts inside onto his right foot, then stabs the ball, chips it in the direction of Luis Suarez, who shoves his opponent in frustration as the ball is shepherded behind for a goal kick.
There's a good little dink there, just a little bit too much on it, and the defender had read that before it was played anyway.
0-0 it remains at Stadion Lokomotiv. Just seeing again that João Felix header. Perhaps I just couldn't quite believe he had as much space as he did, because it was a bit of a shambles of an effort in the end.
Yeah, it kind of didn't direct it or anything, he just let it hit his head. Needed to get behind that, you get his body in the correct position.
The form he is in, he is forgiven. Scored twice in the 3-1 win over Osasuna in Spanish Liga at the weekend, as well as getting 2 against Salzburg in this competition last week, including what was an 85th minute winner as Atleti came from 2-1 down to win that match 3-2. Is Saul Niguez on the occasion of his 300th appearance in the colours of Atletico, absolute stalwart he has been for the club since making his debut 8.5 years ago. He's in possession again, inside left channel. Helping it on to inside is Marca. Ignatiev. Looking to find a little bit of space, but his passing field was short. And now here comes the charge led by Smolov. Lokomotiv have got a man over here, goes back to pass, and the pass is angled just behind Anton Miranchuk. Otherwise, Lokomotiv would have been in.
Yeah, a little yard or so forward there, that pass would have been perfect for Miranchuk to run onto. This is where they're dangerous, Lokomotiv. This is what we saw a lot of last week. They counter so quickly, and they just pick up on any little mistake. This is where they're going to get their chances, and they need to get it right in the final third.
It's been a frustrating start to the season for Lokomotiv, who finished second in the Russian Premier League in each of the last 2 seasons, having been champions the year before that. But they are currently back in 7th and 7 points off the pace that is being set by their Moscow rivals CSKA. They've gone on a 4-game winless run in all competitions, and they're on the attack here, and it's Zé Luis getting up. Miranchuk has retrieved and tried to fire the ball back across the face of the penalty area. Eventually it goes behind for a goal kick, but a couple of glimpses of an opportunity for Lokomotiv. It remains though 0-0.
It remains 1-0 to Borussia Mönchengladbach in the other early match against Shakhtar, and the German side are completely on top. Lars Stindl has just skewed an effort wide as they chase a second goal. Remember, as things stand, which is our late commentary match. Keep your messages coming in using the hashtag MatchDayLive. Where in the world are you listening? And we also want your greatest Champions League shocks. Can Lokomotiv pull off one against Atletico? Your commentary team of their 0-0 draw as things stand after 4 greatest Champions League shocks. Can Lokomotiv pull off one against Atletico? Your commentary team of their 0-0 draw as things stand after 14 minutes is the former Tottenham Hotspur captain.
Yeah, Atleti not having things all their own way in the first 14 minutes, that's for sure, as Trippier carries the ball over halfway on the right-hand side, and they look to regain the control that it looked like they were starting to exert a few moments ago before Lokomotiv responded. Miranchuk, who's been as much of a menace as anyone in the all-white of the hosts, is back deep in his own, and eventually the ball goes out of play near the halfway line for an Atleti throw on the right-hand side as they attack. Diego Simeone is barking instructions, but you didn't really need me to tell you that. You've seen Diego Simeone during a football match before. Here's Llorente, number 14 on his back, crossing into the penalty area, but it's a comfortable claim for Lokomotiv's Brazilian-born goalkeeper Guilherme, who has played all 16 of their games in all competitions this season. The campaign has been up and running for quite some time in Russian football. Plenty of miles already in the Lokomotiv legs.
I think Lokomotiv will be well aware of Atletico leaking goals, and I think that they're going to be playing off little half chances, and this week it's just they need to be clinical, they need to take them chances because they're not going to get many of them throughout the match.
João Felix coming in off the left-hand touchline in the all-blue, wearing gloves tonight. João Felix. Saul inside the penalty area trying to play it across the face of goal, wants a corner. But Vladislav Ignatiev, who was doing the defending, pointing out that actually the ball deflected off Saul last and it will be a goal kick.
Yeah, that was good tracking back from him. I thought he'd lost him for a second there, but he picked up his pace and he managed to get the block in and get the goal kick.
Saul missed 5 successive games in all competitions with a muscle injury, so this is his first appearance in the UEFA Champions League for this season. Already trying to make up for lost time with a couple of bursts, characteristic bursts from that deep line midfield position into the Lokomotiv penalty area. The ball is hoisted forwards into the Atletico half, but it's beyond the reach of Zé Luis and eventually all the way back to Jan Oblak, who's clearing forward to halfway, headed back forward by Murillo. There's Renan Lodi, his compatriot, who's playing as left back for Atletico Madrid tonight. Stefan Savic, the Montenegrin, who's now in his 6th season with Atleti, into the feet of João Felix, on towards Luis Suarez. Bit of space for Saul, he's going to go for goal, left-footed, and it flashes just across the face of goal and wide at the left-hand post.
That was a great strike there. Again, we see Luis Suarez dropping into the pocket, so dropping off of the defenders who come to receive the ball to play it off, and a great strike.
He's just decided there, Saul, that it was time to take matters into his own hands, and I've done Guilherme a disservice because he got fingertips to it to make sure that the ball did divert around the post, so it will be an Atleti corner kick.
Yeah, that was definitely heading in had it not been for the fingertip save there.
It'll be Trippier to take the corner from the right-hand side, cleared by Zé Luis, but only as far as Angel Correa. Out to the left to Hector Herrera, curling it in right-footed, helped on brilliantly. What a goal that is from Jose Jimenez! A flick header from 15 metres out. It snuck just inside the post, beyond the fingertips of Guilherme, and it's Lokomotiv Moscow 0, Atletico Madrid 1.
There's a great header there. I can't help but think Lokomotiv would be annoyed with themselves. They didn't get up quick enough. As soon as the ball had left the area, they needed to get right up and had so much time out there to get his head up and pick his cross and then find the head there.
So the first goal of the night in the match between Lokomotiv and Atletico, and we've had a second in Kiev and a second goal for Borussia Mönchengladbach. Christoph Kramer, with a long-range effort, took a massive deflection of Valeri Bondar, which sent the goalkeeper completely the wrong way, and Gladbach are 2-0 up in both of their games this season already against Inter and Real Madrid, and have conceded very late and haven't won a game yet. But Marco Rosa's team have put themselves into another perfect position in this season's Champions League. They are 2-0 up, and Stephen Wyeth, finally that Atletico pressure has paid in Moscow.
Maybe the goal scorer that you might have anticipated, the Uruguayan central defender, playing just his second game of the season, but he stayed forward after the set piece, Jose Jimenez, and he and Atletico Madrid have been rewarded with his third game with his third goal in the UEFA Champions League. It was a stunning header, really difficult to direct on target, but not only was he able to do that, but to get it beyond the reach of the goalkeeper. And now we're going to see what Lokomotiv can do by way of a response. Zé Luis's ball forward to Moranchuk on the left-hand side, back across the face of the penalty area, but some tenacious defending from Angel Correa to make sure he got a toe into the ball first. Here's Ignatiev out to Zidogirov on the right-hand side, back to Ignatiev, looking to thread it out to the right-hand side again. Here comes the ball into the penalty area. Smolov looking to turn it onto his left foot and then trying to just dink it into the path of Vladislav Ignatiev, and he couldn't quite make that pass come off, and it's Jose Jimenez, the goal scorer, back inside his own penalty area this time with the clearance.
It's a good response from Lokomotiv. I think after conceding a goal, the next 5 minutes are so important that you don't concede another. You need to stay focused, regroup. So yeah, that's a good comeback, comeback from them, and let's just have to keep it tight for the next 5 minutes and regroup and start stick to the plan again.
João Felix has just fouled Daniil Kuliakov on halfway, so it will be a Lokomotiv free kick. Well, they responded well to the initial pressure, and they have responded well to falling behind. And it's a difficult situation for any of the less fancy teams in the group stage to concede first at home, and especially when you do so against a team with the kind of Champions League group stage experience that Atletico Madrid have. And now João Felix is running at the Lokomotiv defence and finding Kieran Trippier, who opts not to shoot first time, which seemed the obvious thing to do. João Felix then trying to backheel it into the path of Angel Correa, and the Lokomotiv defence had regrouped.
There's some great play by Felix, really fast footwork there, and then just laying it off to Trippier. I don't know why he didn't get his head up. I think he had more time than he thought, but instead he decided a little drag back instead of the shot.
Well, he's never scored in this competition, and he's never scored for Atletico Madrid. That represented as good an opportunity as I think I've seen him have.
Yeah, definitely. He had a lot more time than I thought. He could have just taken a touch out and a shot there.
Rolled out by Guilherme underarm into the path of Vladislav Ignatiev, who's carried it 50 metres and is now considering his options. Smolov provides one, and then it's come to the edge of the penalty area, and that maybe was a shooting chance which hasn't been taken on by the Pole Krakowiak. And then two Atleti players go to ground, Luis Suarez and Hector Herrera. I think they could have had a free kick for either of those challenges, Jenna.
Yeah, definitely. I think they just need to calm down that Lokomotiv. 2 fouls just going into the back of the Atletico players. Very angry, sure is.
Now there is a check going on for a possible penalty kick. That check is being overseen by Abdul Kadir Bitigen, who is the video assistant referee tonight, and it did strike the arm of Hector Herrera as the ball was fired across the penalty area, and his arm was, although his elbow was tucked into his ribs, his arm was out at a right angle, Jenna.
Yeah, definitely. It wasn't down by his side. He's not facing the ball. I'm not sure he knows too much about it, but his arm is definitely had contact with the ball there.
Well, this is a big moment in the game. Benoit Bastien is just waiting for instruction from Abdul Kadir Bitigen, who will be considering all the factors of the handball rules, and the decision is that the French on-field official is going to go and check for himself.
It's so difficult being a defender in those situations, because your body just naturally reacts for your arm to come up. It's going for a second opinion there.
It's kind of one of those 50-50 ones, isn't it? Because you say, well, Herrera is trying to get his arm out of the way.
Yeah, it's almost like he's heading it.
Oh, well, I can tell you, he's just put Luis Suarez for getting too close to him whilst he was reviewing the incident on the video monitor. So he clearly wants to have a longer, more considered look. No, he's made his mind up. It's a penalty. Penalty to Lokomotiv.
Wow, this is good viewing now, so Lokomotiv need to take full advantage of this to get back in the game.
Well, I was erring towards that being the decision that he would come to. It's harsh on the Mexican midfielder, but them's are the rules.
Yeah, you've got to keep your arms down by your side. It's so difficult. I mean, it's easier said than done, especially when the ball's coming. He wasn't even looking at the ball there.
Luis Suarez is the player, and we're just getting confirmation of the yellow card for him. He was not involved in the incident, but it was his encroachment towards the VAR review area that has earned him that yellow card. So, an opportunity for Lokomotiv to get themselves back into the game little more than 6 minutes after falling behind. A penalty kick to be overseen by Anton Miranchuk, who has scored in each of his last 2 games in all competitions. Make that 3 from 3. Sending Oblak to his left. The penalty kick went right, and it is Lokomotiv 1, Atletico Madrid 1.
Catch as you like from Miranchuk. Bottom corner, the goalkeeper couldn't get anywhere near that one.
Well, that is game on, Jenna. That makes things considerably more interesting than they were a couple of minutes ago.
Definitely, and that's the reaction that you'd want from Lokomotiv. They didn't get their heads down, they went straight back at it, and that's what we've seen a lot of from Lokomotiv over the last couple of games that we've watched in the Champions League.
A team that has has lost each of their last 3 games, is suddenly on level terms again, and against one of the most illustrious names in all of European football. And it is a player who is a product of the Lokomotiv youth system, one of the shining lights of recent season's ability to produce players who has got themselves level. His 2nd goal of the season in the UEFA Champions League is 4th in all competitions, and Atletico Madrid must try and pick themselves up from that setback and come again, Jenna.
Yeah, definitely. Now they need to react. How are they going to react to this? It'll be interesting to see. Lokomotiv were in a similar position last week, and they bounced back from it.
Ball angled out towards Trippier, who is again forward on the right-hand side. He will allow it to go out of play for a throw-in. He could have kept it in play if he'd chosen to do so, but decided that support was required, and then Luis Suarez fails to cushion the ball back to Trippier from the throw-in, and possession has been conceded again. Herrera momentarily thought he'd won it back, but can only find Miranchuk, who is subsequently dispossessed by Marcos Llorente. Angel Correa in field from right to the edge of the centre circle, where Sal is getting his head up and very elegantly playing it left-footed into the path of Jose Jimenez, whose goal for Atleti is the one that was cancelled out by Miranchuk's penalty. Here's Trippier on the right again. Llorente looking to try and set up camp in the Lokomotiv half. Atleti, this is a little bit more conservative as they creep forward. They're clearly aware that having just conceded, the last thing they want to do is a team that's suddenly got the wind in their sails to give them possession and give them the opportunity to score goals, successive goals very quickly, which is something that they might have been vulnerable to. This is good tactics from Atletico to just try and take some of the momentum out of the contest, because the 8,000 or so inside Stadion Lokomotiv are making themselves heard, Chris. 1-1 it is between Lokomotiv and Atletico Madrid.
I imagine the Gladbach fans watching and listening in Germany will be enjoying themselves, because they are 3-0 up away to Shakhtar, and Alassane Player has his 2nd of the night. And Shakhtar have chosen, despite many of their stars coming back from positive COVID tests, they chose tonight to stick with the youngsters that did the job against Real Madrid on match day 1 and got a point against Inter last week. But maybe, from Luis Castro's point of view, it has backfired a little bit, because Andrei Piatov, their number 1 goalkeeper, is on the bench, and Anatoly Trubin has just been beaten for the 3rd time in 27 minutes. Gladbach, a dream night so far in Kiev for them, Stephen White.
I saw Gladbach's game against Leipzig at the weekend in the Bundesliga. It was a considerably more attritional affair than that one sounds. 1-0 they won that game, but they've started the season excellently, both in the Champions League and the Bundesliga. Borussia Mönchengladbach, including that win over the side that had come into the weekend in the Bundesliga, top of the table.